Goatman has become a very enigmatic cryptid. Not only is it more obscure than most cryptids, but its origins and very nature are too. Stone heads opening interdimensional gateways, experiments gone awry, axe-wielding serial killers and shape-shifting monsters. What is going on here? Stay to find out the truth behind the homicidal Goatman. I've discussed the idea of cryptids having plentiful sightings, yet going under the radar. Goatman certainly fits this profile, maybe more than anything else. However, it does more than that. It crops up in the strangest places, or should I say, near the strangest objects. Mysterious summoning stones that become lost in some old archive. The first strange case we should discuss is that of the Hexham Heads. In 1971, in the town of Hexham, two boys dug up 6-centimeter smooth stones in their backyard that were both etched into the shape of a human face. These stones would be found turned or moved like some possessed doll. Objects were shattered and glass shards were placed under pillows in a similarly mysterious manner. Objects also moved and broke in their neighbor's house. The kids say they were slapped or had their hair tugged by an invisible hand. Eventually, a Goatman-like entity appeared, also in both the house containing the heads and the neighbor's house. They got rid of the heads, but the abbey that received them quickly sent them to a researcher, who determined the stones were likely Celtic, although there is no evidence Celtic people have ever been in the area. But they don't match any peoples who have been in the area. The carving techniques were so strange they could not be accurately traced to anyone, and due to a lack of organic matter, they could not be dated either. The researcher and her daughter saw the creature on 3 separate occasions, and decided to put the heads in storage, before being bought by someone named Frank Hyde 7 years later. When he died, the stones were lost. For the most part, it seems like these stones are summoning a Goatman somehow, but there is an interesting detail that says otherwise. In Goatman reports, it is said to have cloven hooves. This creature's foot is described as having a pelt of fur and claws extending from its toes. It may be a single detail, but is well established, and means this is a separate creature entirely. The Hexham Heads are thus a story for another day. To make sure we do have a baseline for further claims and sightings, I've compiled a general description of the creature. Goatman is a bipedal digitigrade with cloven hooves that are typically around 15 centimeters long. A fully matured Goatman is between 6 and 8 feet tall. The creature is covered in shaggy, dirty, matted fur that can be black, gray, brown, light brown, white, red, or a mix of these colors. There's slightly less fur coverage on its torso. Its torso and arms are humanoid, and its arms are slightly elongated. Its hands are mostly humanoid, with long fingers that have black nails/claws ending at a sharp point. The creature's eyes are set relatively deep, horizontally slitted, forward-facing, and are typically yellow, but can be red or green on occasion. The snout is longer than that of a goat, and is closer in size to a wolf's snout, but is still roughly as narrow as a goat's snout. It has long horns on the top of its head that are thick at the base, then curl up and back away from the head. The creature can make growling, sniffing, grunting, and snorting noises. It can also make huffing noises, but typically does so before charging. The creature is able to make goat-like bleating noises. The scream or screech of a Goatman is relatively high-pitched and loud. The creature has a distinctly earthy smell. It hunts animals, including humans, and eats meat. It has enough intelligence to occasionally employ tool use. This animal's range is the United States, Canada, England, and Wales. Now there are 2 details I left out of this description. One is that of the axe murders. At least 3 different people in different areas have reported on different platforms that held an axe and maybe even attacked people with it. Why would a cryptid become an axe murderer? Well, the answer may be intelligence. I've heard of a Bigfoot wearing flannel. It doesn't mean Bigfoot have human societies, it means it stole it from a clothesline and was curious about trying it. In fact, one of the axe reports even states it was recognized as the witness's axe. This isn't a serial killer in goat form, it's just enough intellect for tool use when the opportunity occurs. In fact, goat men are very much about opportunities. They are occasionally seen standing, but more often are running away from or toward the witness, with no in-between. The second detail is its ability. 17 of my 70+ sightings mention this. They all come from the same source as well. It apparently has the same abilities as skinwalkers. The ability to shapeshift or transform into other animals or accurately look like specific humans, as well as the ability to mimic voices and use that mimicry to say words with intelligence behind them. Now, I can't ignore mimics any longer. I've already got a list of incidents now that should be looked into, but the fact that it is a single source is suspicious. It is possible that the core audience built off each other's stories and made fake replicas, although it could also be a higher concentration. A little under 70% of my Goatman reports come from this channel, Darkness Prevails. Since skinwalkers, at least in origin, seem to be a more religious or ritualistic creation, why would a tall goat be able to achieve the same thing? Maybe some animals are born with a connection humans don't have, and that's before even discussing how shapeshifting would be physically possible, religion or otherwise. There is the Hui Shivo, which is specific to the Yucatan Peninsula. It is known to transform into a goat-like, dog-like, or deer-like entity, and has a similar story and abilities to the skinwalker. That may be what we are seeing, and the murderous behavior and manipulation are similar to skinwalker stories too. They may in fact just be the preferred form of a skinwalker, like coyotes and dogmen seem to be. These are all important to consider, but over 75% of our sightings work without this ability. Thus, it may be prudent to avoid trying to understand supernatural abilities that appear in only one source, and instead save that exploration for another time. Right now, we will take the Goatman description we have and analyze how credible these witnesses are. Before that, I think we should clear some things up. There are rumors of Goatman being created by a failed experiment in the Patuxent Research Refuge, or the more often cited Beltsville Agricultural Research Center. Firstly, this would not account for sightings in other areas and countries. Secondly, none of these theories come with sightings or reports indicating or seeing such an experiment. These are only rumors. Something else to clear up is the popular Goatman photo. It is confirmed to be a Photoshop by Viergat. Viergat never even claimed it was real. Some people just somehow came to that conclusion themselves. Before I analyze these sightings, here is a breakdown of the locations. I found 70 sightings, and it seems, based on my research, that there is roughly 2 to 10 times this amount in local newspapers and similar media. Thus, I cannot access it with online research alone, but will likely investigate this further in the future. In addition to this, more sightings keep coming in, with the latest being posted only a month ago. So I would say it is difficult to access sightings, but there are a lot, and continue to pour in at a consistent rate. As I said, it is a creature that goes under the radar, so the chances of someone naming it correctly, instead of using sheep squatch or unknown creature or Baphomet or whatever else, is low right now, and thus not too searchable. Aside from all these sightings, it is well dispersed, as you can see by all these locations, with there even being an outlier in eastern Australia. It's also been reported for a long time, with the earliest full sighting being in the 1870s, so it is fairly consistent in its presence, which does mean it fits that criteria when we look at if the creature may exist. Evolutionarily speaking, it's not too bad either. At first glance, it may seem improbable. However, it does show evolution in its appearance alone. The snout is goat-like, but longer. It's not a copy of a wolf or anything. It is an elongated version of a goat's snout. Its eyes are still a little farther apart, according to one witness, meaning they are still adapting to being forward-facing. It retains behavior like ramming. If some goat became feral enough, or even some ancestor of ovines deviated in evolution, it's not too far-fetched. The Otan list from Knox even has oviform, which isn't technically a guarantee, but certainly adds a high level of credence. And for bipedalism, I will reference my section of the Dogman video where I discuss this. Its hooves have been measured, by one witness, as the size of 2 fully open hands. That would make it longer than cows, elks, goats, or most other ungulates, which makes sense as it would be needed to support bipedalism. There has been 1 or 2 witnesses reporting quadrupedal movement, which is most likely vestigial movement being phased out or used for more specific reasons. Now this is all good from a theoretical standpoint, but how do we know the witnesses actually saw what they think they saw? How do we know they aren't lying for entertainment? Well, I'm glad I asked, because this is also quite interesting. One report occurred in Pembrey Forest, a place in southwestern Wales. There were 2 witnesses who corroborated each other's accounts to be accurate to what they saw individually. Their view of the creature was close, clear, and in daylight, and people even said they saw weird humanoid figures in the area later. There is no way, at a close range, with no obstruction, in the middle of the day, could they mistake it for something else. They were even on duty. They were forestry workers, inspecting and maintaining the forest at the time. They didn't tell a tale to their colleagues either, because they never heard about it. The incident was quietly reported and gained traction on its own. If they were lying for entertainment, their colleagues would get a fisherman's tale. They wouldn't make a false report while on duty, and we can confirm that these are real people with these jobs. Their names were Colin Jenkins and David Evans. And they aren't the only ones with confirmed jobs. A scoutmaster in the 1960s made a report in Pope Lick of seeing it from a distance, as well as the very real sheep mutilation reported in the area. A scoutmaster has to take care of a bunch of kids and have knowledge of the area and wildlife. This person would not want to show how much they suck at their job by scaring the kids and lying, nor would they not know how to differentiate between different local animals and animal calls. How about the ranger working for NASA at Goddard Space Flight Center? Do they seem like the lying type? Do they seem like the type to misidentify animals? These people's jobs and identities were confirmed, and unless a bunch of forestry workers don't know what lives in the forest, or a bunch of government workers started getting in the habit of lying in their reports, I'm inclined to believe them. In these few examples alone, they are all wildlife experts, and all submitting very real reports to their superiors. You would have to argue that multiple wildlife experts cannot identify wildlife, or that rangers and official overseers of the forest and scoutmasters, along with their whole troop, are all individually deciding to lie to the people who employ and oversee them. The biology and distribution fits. The witnesses are credible, so based on the information presented here today, the Goat Man is real, and will take the place of ASP-18, and it's got a kill count. You see, from that sighting in the 1870s, to the Pope Lick monster, to a blacksmith in Middle Tennessee, to Prince George County, this creature has killed between 5 and 10 people that we know of. Be careful, because Goat Man is still out there. It might have even inspired the satyrs and fauns in mythology. And yes, I did find a couple fake stories during my research, in case you were wondering. If you like this video, subscribe for more. Goodbye.